So the idea of having this night of poetry, as I said, came about because as Jews we love poetry. We love our now literature from the Tanakh, Midrash, mystical writings, liturgy, and modern poetry. It's just really permeated with the poetic language. And recently, I was talking to my daughter. Those we share online. We can't be can't visit each other or see each other physically. And she shared with me some of the poems that she wrote during that period since the beginning of the shelter in home or shut in or whatever we call it, Corona crisis. And I said, we should share it with people, and that's how the idea of this poetry night was born. So, as you understand, one of the poets that I was going to present tonight is Talia Laniato, my daughter. I'm very proud of. Hi, Talia. Um, the other two that I'm waiting for them to join are Jill Sigi, who's a member of our congregation in Potomac. She's a very special lady. I'm going to introduce her again when she joins. She's a lawyer who is also an ASL interpreter, and she works a lot volunteering with the deaf community here, translating. She used to come to my sermons, and this is how we connected on that level of spirituality and learning. And third is Yael Meyer, who used to live in Potomac, now lives in Santiago de Chile, and she's a singer-songwriter. She has beautiful music. She also shared her music with us the other night when we did On Pesa, Simcha Pesa. So without further ado, I will let Talia talk and present her poetry. Talia, do you want me to make you host so you could control the screen, or okay?
Guess, yeah, if I share my screen, you can
Yeah.
see.
So if you could share your screen
Reading.
and
I can
control
share
it, and then I'll control.
Okay, cool. Try to share a specific window. Share.
I'll tell if it shares. If not, I'll make you host, and it'll be easier.
Tell me if it were. Oh, well, I guess I would be able to see it.
Okay, no, so we don't see it.
I can
So
hear
let me.
here.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. I'll
Okay.
have to quit it. So.
Okay, so let me make you host, and then you have the.
Actually, I'll send you a picture of it, and then you
No,
can share it.
you could do. You share it now.
Okay. Let me try.
Share it now, and then also tell us a little bit about yourself and if you want, and then you could read the poetry.
Oh, perfect. Okay. Okay. It's not sharing, is it?
It is. It is showing.
Oh, it is.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Just make it
So
bigger.
you see my screen?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
You can make it a bit larger.
Can I do like a... Okay. Is this okay?
Yeah, we could read it. We could see it. It's fine.
Okay. So I'm just going to start by kind of introducing. I'm going to be sharing 3 poems, and I've been basically writing poems daily throughout this whole situation, kind of trying to process my new reality. And I'm sharing kind of a like the feelings of just the initial, just trying to register everything changing, and then ending off kind of with some positives that I'm taking from it. So here goes. This was written on March 30th. Ice Cream Sunday. The crisp black grids of our calendars fade and dissipate. Our days and weeks folding into each other, losing meaning, leaving one large block of white where there were once neat squares with clear beginnings and ends. Days blend into one another like ice cream flavors melted by heat and neglect. Each flavor alone, unique in texture and taste, no longer appealing in this indistinct puddle. Just one sticky mess. Like combining vibrant paints together, expecting a gorgeous synchrony of hues, instead lifting your hand to find a muddled shade of brown. For what is Monday without a coworker to groan about it? Saturday without men coming and going from prayers. Sunday without couples strolling in the park and children playing soccer. The only hint a day has passed, the date displayed upon your phone. Another day has come and gone. First, everybody heard me, or?
We heard you. I maybe before, do you want
Do you want me to read all three and then discuss, or what did you want to do?
I think maybe we could maybe we'll ask people how do they feel when you could tell us. Um, can you make it a little bigger? So
Is
yeah,
good or bigger?
yeah, this is good. If you can make it even a little bigger, would be okay. If you can do the pinch on this. Oh, you have to do it this way. Yeah, you have a Mac.
Is that
Okay.
good?
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I would like to hear comments from people. Go ahead. If people who want to comment on that, of what you see in this poem, the metaphors, analogies, and how you feel about that. Oh, I see that Jill joined us. Welcome, Jill. Good to have you.
Thank you.
Okay. So I'll just want to say one thing, and maybe you read another poem, so Atalia, and then we'll open up the discussion. Like in the first paragraph, we have the crisp black grids of our calendars fade and dissipate, our days and weeks folding into each other. Someone mentioned to me the other day, says we only have now one day on the calendar called the blur day. And that's sort of the feeling that we have of like losing that kind of order that we have in our lives, right? The routine. We always complain about the routine, but now that the routine is taken, we say that we don't know what to do. Okay, so maybe share another one now.
Well, actually, I would like to say something.
Okay, Shai wants to say something. Yes.
Yeah, hi, Talia. Nice to meet you. It's actually, I feel it's very deep and very unique. And I think it's because of two reasons. First, women usually are more deep. Like you're blessed that actually you can take this kind of thoughts and write them down. Sometimes I struggle and I write a message. Like, I mean, yesterday I had to write a message to Rav Chaim. And it took me hours, and then I sent him like Megillat Esther. It's like, yeah. Second is it's the thing that when the writing part become very important and powerful, because now like there's a lot of people that they are really surviving and going to hospitals and people sick and the conspiration around everything. So there is no people actually that they can really sit down and have this kind of quiet and give us this kind of words. So thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you, Shai. Okay, so
Can I add
Jill?
a comment? Hello?
Yes, Jill, please.
Oh, okay.
I introduced you briefly when you weren't here, and I'll introduce you again if you read your poetry. Yes.
I'm sorry. I don't even know how to put my video. It says stop video, start video.
No worries.
Somehow, I can't because the poem's on there. Okay. So, yeah, so I'm sorry. I'm just joining in late. It's been a crazy work day in a good way. So it was very interesting, Talia. Because I just literally joined in and quickly scanned this poem, and I read it differently than the way that it's written. And it was kind of like a really interesting misread. So when you started out with the crisp black grids of our calendars, I thought, and then I kind of skimmed down to the ice cream. So I was picturing the crisp kind of like squares that are on a waffle, like a waffle ice cream cone. So I thought you were gonna like have the waffle, or I just made like a little poetic thing, addition, I guess. I don't know. When I was just reading it quickly, it was kind of interesting what the mind does. So I just I was like thinking of the grid on the waffle cone and then go straight into your ice cream thing, like the grid on the waffle cone going like matching the grids on our calendars, but it's kind of like ice cream, and so anyway, I'm with you.
I could go into like a future edit. Thank you.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, people commented that the positivity a bit of this ice cream. So maybe you share something darker.
So I was going to, and I'm afraid it might be too dark. So I'm gonna read.
No, don't. I think we can handle that. Don't worry.
I should.
Yeah. Yes, please.
So I could read the melting clocks, or if you think I could read tears in the fabric. I just don't want to be
I
too.
like I personally my favorite is Stairs in the Fabric. So please read it.
Okay, guys, can you handle something a little bit more?
Yeah.
Sure.
Don't worry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay, so let me pull it.
Melting clocks. Okay.
And the last
Ask
one's more
everybody
positive.
to mute themselves until the end of the reading. Yeah.
Okay, as you can see, I have a lot here. I'm just gonna skim to. Okay, let me just jump to it.
I see that it's by weeks. You have a journal.
Yeah, basically. Okay. Sorry, Manucha. Okay, I'm gonna jump in. Okay, thank you, Myra. Is it big enough? Should I make it bigger?
A little bit if possible.
And then I'll scroll. So,
Okay, yes.
good?
That's good, yeah.
Okay. Tears in the fabric. God is emptying his pockets. There are tears in the fabric which must be repaired, lest the entire structure rips apart. Whilst pulling them inside out, upside down, contents come spilling out. Old sticks of gum and the structure of society, keys and pens and the illusion of normal. The world he carries in its pockets and all the dolls who inhabit it. The dolls come tumbling out. Not all of them will make it out alive. Many, this is a previous version. Many will perish. Many will suffer and cry and mourn the loss of loved ones or the loss of life as they knew it, a distant memory now. They pull at their fabric braids and tear their miniature clothes, grieving all that is irrevocably gone. While their world falls apart, God quietly stitches the torn seams back together, taking care that all is righted, that the pockets can do their job. Keep everything important to him close and safe, each family restored to its nucleus, whole and impermeable. Once the pockets are clean and meticulously repaired, the dolls, many of their brethren lost in the process, are shined and adored and returned to their place. I'm sorry, he whispers. I had no choice.
Wow. Can you tell us, maybe Talia, explain a little bit?
So sorry if this was heavy for anybody.
It is.
Yeah, this
that.
was
Yeah.
kind of the process I was going through. Like, I'm trying to wrap my head around all of this and trying to know, like God could take this away in a second. Like, why is this happening? And like, I was trying to kind of think, like, I don't know, maybe this is some essential thing that needs to be done, and this is the less horrible way to do it. Well, we can't know, but this is kind of the only thing that I could stomach. And I kind of, like, by putting it down to like a miniature version of, like, as if we're like, we feel like we're so great and powerful, but really, like, we're these like little creations of his, and like he cares about us very much, and he doesn't want us to be pained or hurt, but there's a reason this has to happen, I guess. And that was my way of dealing with it. That he doesn't want anyone to get hurt, but that's the only way. And that was just my manifestation of it. So
Yeah. So I see that Alisa and Howie are asking whether you believe. I think maybe that's the best way to do it, to have people submit questions by chat, because our group has grown. Thank you, Alisa. And everybody else, we could Talia, you're the host. You should mute everyone and unmute me for now.
Okay. I mean, I think everyone's muted unless there are more. Oh, there are more people. Cool.
Yeah. And unmute me afterwards so I can.
Unmute. You're unmuted though.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that that's how I felt when I read it. That what God is saying, I had no choice. It's as if this is something that had to run its course. It's something that had to happen. And I personally, I think I shared it with you, and I shared with some people in the group, that what I think the thing that should have happened is for people to wake up and listen to the crisis of nature and of the world in general, that I spoke with a biology professor the other day, Bob Pollock, and he told me that it's hard for us to think of ourselves as one of 7 billion. We are one, each one of us is one of 7 billion people. We tend to isolate ourselves in little clusters, but now we all feel like we're one of one species. And we've been destroying the earth and not taking care of it. And this is God's way of telling us, not a punishment, it's just the natural course of things. And I think I felt very connected to this poem because you have a dialogue with God. You're sort of asking why you're doing this to us. Why are you permitting that to happen? And the answer is there's no choice. There's no other way to do it. If we think that there's a better way to do it, you're welcome to bring it up. But you were able to bring out the pain, the individual pain within this whole process.
Thank
So
you.
yeah, yeah.
Uh,
I'm going to reclaim host for a second, okay?
Of course.
Um,
I think that we have a great opportunity to review our lifestyles because we don't have being a sustainable lifestyle in your lives.
right. I have to add that Eduardo is also a biology uh, doctor, professor, a doctor of marine biology in Brazil. And so he looks at it from the point of view of how the world is going. Um, so one second. I'm muted everyone. I want to ask this. Now Talia read the two poems and one second. Now that Talia read the two poems, I think that this poem, "The Tears in the Fabric," is very powerful, and expresses the pain that we feel. You can still share it with us in writing, right? Because God willing, you're going to publish it at a certain point. Maybe I'll ask Jill to read one poem, right, and share with us, and then we'll go back to Talia. I see a comment from Misaela in Oregon saying, "I think this is a remarkable presentation of how the process of thinking and speaking and acting by God are intertwined." And I have to say, Israel is also sort of a poet. We've studied together. She's a rabbi, and she understands that. She understands nature and what was happening to us. So, Jill, I introduced you before. I said that, I told people that we got to know each other through the synagogue. You came to listen to the sermons, and then you translated them to ASL, and how you take care of the community is amazing. And that you're a poet, and you share with me some of your poetry, and you're going to share with us today. So,
Okay, thank you. I have one that I think is, I have one kind of long one that kind of brings up some of the same issues that Talia's did, but it kind of resolves it differently.
Okay.
It's basically a crisis of faith, and asking why people who are not deserving of it are being punished. And I feel like Psalm 73 kind of asked a different question, not why, but what we should do. That the why doesn't matter as much as the what. So anyway, so I wrote a poem based on Psalm 73. It's kind of long, but I really like it.
Okay.
And then I just have like one to leave it on a much kind of sillier, light note that's very short. Okay.
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 So do you want? Can you share your screen? Try to do that. If not, I'll make you the host, and then you'll do that.
Oh, okay. Okay. Yeah, I didn't send it to you, so I'm just going to read it. So.
Okay. Oh, read
Okay.
it. Fine. Okay.
Okay. All right. So this is once again based on Psalm 73. So feel free to check out Psalm 73 afterwards.
Oh, and by the way, I see that Yael joined us. Thank you, Yael, for coming. Okay. We'll hear you
Nice.
later. Okay.
Okay. Truly, God knows others have faith in their heart more pure. I was so close that my feet almost gave in to the other side's allure. Just like the ocean licks and pulls back the shore, my steps move backwards away from the Lord. When I noticed that the wicked seemed to reap all the rewards, I watched them. They were not frail. They did not for the crimes they served any time in jail, nor sickness overcame them to match their deeds. It seemed like the scale was tipped to those who do not believe. Oh, they decorate themselves with arrogance like a glittery jewel. Even with all their excess fat, they float so lightly in the pool. They eat and take from others nonstop while their eyes are so large and bulged out, they look like they will any minute pop. All the world is their playground. Their hearts run wild and curse the innocent, chasing love out of town. Their tongues strut lies as if it were truth. Of consequences they laugh, and from God's punishments are aloof. As they suck the life out of the waters, they leave others with no place to swim, like a boat without fodders. Laughing, they exclaim, how can God know? Even up high it appeared they had no foes. They lose no sleep. They are peaceful as they count their money with their sheep. Never a single weep. I'm set up to fail even when I do the work to purify my heart, because the cards were decked in the evil's favor from the start. Though I washed and cleaned my hands, my disease is countless like the grains of sand. Every morning I hear screams, no easy rising for me, or so it seems. If I told all how with no reward I cling to you, dear God, your flock would no longer stick to you like helplessly like glue. Nonetheless, these questions of evil I decided not to pursue. Thank God you give me clear eyes to see only my Creator anew and provide a refreshing aerial view. I saw that you have indeed set a slippery path, so we choose you despite the math. With no apparent reward, the closeness to you is what brings the ocean back every time to lick the shore. Like a dreamer who was finally able to shake off the sleep and the mistakes of others, I realized I was wasting my tears to weep. Never again will I try to understand evil. I just step back to you in daylight, away from the upheaval. I found a lasting peace knowing you are always with me when I face east. Even through all these questions, you have always provided too many blessings to mention. I can feel your tug so much more powerful than an evildoer's shrug. May you always guide me with your counsel so sweet. There is no space between us now. I can vote with my feet. I strive to you with no risk of falter. Who else do I have who is always awaiting me at my altar? Ah, when I am with you, those earthly rewards look like a shineless jewel. God, you are the rock of my heart and my portion forever. There ultimately is no reward for evil, no matter how clever. As for me, nearness to you is my only good. You are there for me. You are there for me, just like I always knew you would. My steps are on sure and solid ground. When every day I recount your goodness, I hear only your sweet, succulent sound.
Beautiful, beautiful. You can't hear the. I'll just make a comment. Like you said, it's long. Anyone who wants to talk, I muted everyone because of the echo. So raise your hand, or send me chat, or you can do the raise hand. I'll just make a comment. I see that Alisa wants to say something. Knowing Tehillim, I love Tehillim, and I very special connection to this Mizmor, 73, where he argued, where he asks the question of theodicy, and it was beautiful to hear all the references to Tehillim in that poem. Really, like it's a modern version of Tehillim, very much like Yehuda Amichai does in Hebrew. He did something similar in English. It's beautiful.
Oh, okay. And I'm not even
very,
fluent in Hebrew, so I couldn't have cheated. So
thank you so much, Michelle. Alisa, yes. Wait, I have to unmute you. Wait, like 1 second. If you, do-
Yeah,
uh,
can you hear me?
yes.
Hi. Well, first of all, thank you to both our very talented poets and putting this together, Rabbi Ovadia. I clearly think both our poets are very clearly influenced by the classical imagery of the relationship between God and man, and almost in the biblical sense that man acted and sinned or did something virtuous, and God reacted in kind, almost a transactional God, which, you know, me personally, I would like to imagine that that's not really how God exists, although it's very sort of understandable why man, especially coming from a sort of idolatrous background where you give offerings to a God and God is, you know, good and gracious to you, or if you're a sinner, God punishes you. And we see that repetitively in Jewish texts, you know, ancient Jewish texts. You know, and I think people would kind of say, knowing me, I'm a sort of a positive person. And by no means do I think this is, you know, a bowl of cherries over here. And, you know, every day you just thank God that if you're healthy and your family and your loved ones are healthy, you know, Gamzu Latova, as they say, or, but I'd like to imagine, and I'd like, you know, and I haven't written a poem about it, but I do see some positive outcomes. And maybe if there is a God reason why this is happening, it could be for a reset and to kind of get back to what Judaism or what life should be like as sort of modern people. And the thing that comes to my mind is common sense. And I think we've lost common sense. We go towards, you know, experts, quote unquote, whether in the religious sense or in the, you know, in the political sense. We perceived experts to answer all of our questions and problems, and we've forgotten basic how to take care of ourselves, resilience, you know, personal resilience. You know, yesterday was Yom HaShoah, and you have to imagine, how did the people that survived, and that was a far more catastrophic period in history. I mean, people were not sheltering in place with water and then Amazon and then, you know, and whatnot. And yet they found resilience and somehow they survived. And if you probably research the people that did survive, it was because they had some sense of common sense, like how to react to a situation that was very different from what was the situation the day before. And I think that our society had become disabled in looking at what was happening today versus what was happening yesterday. And unfortunately, you see the residuals of it still in what's going on today. Like if you have to keep doing what you were doing, that's, you know, and you're having a minyan, let's say, or you're, you know, you need to have that wedding or whatever it is that people were sort of faltering, it's because they lost common sense. And so I would say the good part of this is maybe we will return to a life, and you know, who knows, maybe we'll just go right back to being ridiculous. I don't know, but I would say that to think of something positive that could come out of this is that we're actually spending time at home having these conversations with one another when we probably didn't do that much. So
Thank you, Alisa. So I want to comment on that, on what Alisa said, and move on to Yael, and then go back to Talia. That I think that the positive thing that we see through all of this is that dialogue with God, and that it's a very noble and very elevated concept that we have this conversation. Those conversations that we don't hear people saying, God, I accept whatever you throw at me. This is what you want, and I'm your servant. No, there's a question, there's a response. The divinity is within us, and that's what we're looking for. And I think what we were learning from this crisis, unlike the Holocaust, it's a completely different. It's a different model altogether. There, it was one group of people targeting another group of people. Here we have the virus as a species attacking mankind and forcing us to see that we are all the same. That in a very ironic, paradoxical way, the lowliest organism has forced us, that we think of ourselves as the crown of creation, to go back to the basics of Bereshit and tell ourselves that we are created in the image of God. We're all equal, no matter where you live, no matter what the color of your skin or your religion or who you are, where you were born to. You're one of the human species created in the image of God. And the V'ahavta kamocha, we now understand also that we have to love each other, we have to unite forces to work for the to make a tikkun olam. So thank you, Elisa, for the comment. Thank you, Jill, for the beautiful poem. Talia, you want to say something? No? Okay, so Talia, you're next. Yael, I unmuted you. You want to share? Last time you shared us, you shared it with music, so we didn't have time to listen fully to the lyrics. And if you want to tell us a little bit about yourself, also I introduced you briefly before, and if you would like, also after you read one of your poems, to sing it, you're welcome. It's up to you. It's your decision. Your
Well,
call.
I didn't know exactly what we were going to be doing today, so if I'm to sing something, I have to go get my guitar because it's in the other room,
Okay.
which is not a problem. It's okay. So whatever is the best way to do it, I'm happy to do that. For me, usually poetry comes along with music because I'm a songwriter, so I think of songs as poetry with music, basically. And I don't write a lot of poetry just by itself. I did a lot when I was a kid, but not since I'm an adult. I usually just write music and lyrics. But the other day I did write something, and I could share that. Or it's not very happy though.
It's okay.
It's more of a reflection. It's not unhappy. It's just a reflection, building upon what Elisa, I think, was saying before, on this pause, which I think for all of us has forced us to reevaluate our lives in a way. And I don't know how other people are feeling. I think everybody probably has a very different reality. Edie, I want stone, okay? No volume, babe. Everybody has a different reality, so we're all facing different situations. But in my case, I'm a lot happier with a lot less, you know? So for me, it's been a gift. I feel a little bit guilty to say that, but for me, it's really been a gift because I've been able to just spend time in nature with my kids, homeschooling, and working remotely very little and at odd times, which I always do at nighttime because it's when my kids are sleeping. But it's been challenging because we were sitting at the Seder the other day and somebody says the pandemic saved us from slavery this year. And I got there was a pandemic this year and it saved us from slavery because we all stopped our lives. And for myself, I thought, and if the pandemic stops, do we have to go back to slavery, you know? So that's a little bit what the poem is about. So I don't know how to do this. Should I share my screen? Or should I just read it?
Just read it.
Okay, so it's called Normal. And it goes like this. When this is all over, are we going back to normal? To running all day to make ends meet, to dropping kids at school, to picking them up when we are all already tired, to not spending enough time together, to there never being enough time, because we're always running around to make ends meet, so we can live a life that we don't want in order to buy things that we don't need. Who sets the rules to the society we live in? Are they the ones who we inherit? Are they the ones we inherit, or the ones we complacently accept? When this is all over, are we going back to normal? Because I don't like normal. Normal is sick. Normal is stress. Normal is running around always late to get somewhere, to spend money so we can make more money while time slips through, while we get lost in the noise of the city that consumes us, that drowns our senses and creates fences to keep us away from what inspires and awakes, so that we become numb and forget what we've become. That's it. The end.
Thank you. That's beautiful. Again, people are. You know what? I sit and listen, and I see the faces of people that I see every day. Some of them, are joining us for our virtual minyan every day, and I see their faces and expressions. And by the way, you have also a crowd of Spanish speakers. So if you have poesia,
I do. I have a song I can share in Spanish, but I would have to go get my guitar.
Okay, so go get the guitar. If you could hear us, I'm talk about. I will make the comment, and then I want Talia to read another song, another poem. Um, I just think that we need. Maybe we should have like a Siddur project. Those are beautiful things to read. What Talia shared, what Jill shared, what Yael, and also if you look at your chat, Ariel David uh, shared a beautiful poetic prose with us also. These are really words of prayer that we could use in our tefillah, in our daily tefillah, and live in the routine that we have on a regular basis. So thank you for that, Yael. It's amazing. You give it a twist of thinking what is normal, what is not normal, right? And I share with you that I heard from a lot of people, especially after the seder, they said, this is the first time that I was able to connect to my children on the seder. I didn't know that you could connect to a 3-year-old. So, oh my God, it's so there's a light there, like we heard before. Okay,
I think
so
for
yeah,
me, it's I just feel like every day we're just so busy, and busy with what, that's the question. Busy doing what? And not having time to really appreciate the simple things. And I feel like that's what the Seder is also about. Like we sit down and everybody's like, when are we eating? When are we eating? Everybody's hungry, And every year I tell people, eat something before the Seder because it's going to take a while and we're not going to rush through it. And by the time you get to finally eating a piece of parsley, you're so hungry that piece of parsley tastes like the biggest elixir in the world, And it's just the scarcity makes you appreciate anything. And I think that's really what Pesach is about, is appreciating the simple things. And this year was just so incredibly valuable for me because I don't know, I feel we've been stripped of everything we thought was important and essential so that we can actually just have what is important and essential, And I don't know, for me, it's just that I've realized I need very little to be very happy, and everything else, it's a lot of noise for me.
beautiful. I think a lot of people really reevaluated, recalibrated their lives, and I shared also a thought before with some people here. Uh, the people who used to be in top of the world, the most powerful people, are struggling more than anyone else because they never learned to deal with the world. No, I don't have, I can't. Everything was available, and all of us, and they never thought that this could be lost. And so it's a sobering lesson for a lot of us.
Yeah.
Okay, so Yael, go get the guitar, and I'll have
I'm
Talia.
gonna go get my guitar. I'll be right back.
Talia, please, you want to share with us another poem?
Um,
You don't need to share the screen, just read it.
Okay, it's a lighter note, which is good, so that we end for my own to end positively. Okay, this is kind of like once I was past the initial shock of being okay with finding the positive in the difficulties. This is called Between. Floating between fear and despair, piercing through the darkness like light through a forest canopy is this. Squares of golden sun spilling onto your table, warming your skin and the wood beneath your feet. Branches swaying in the breeze, spring blossoms budding, sticking to the schedule. Something, at least, unchanged. Your child's laughter full and pure, filling your space. Crisp mountain-like air filling your lungs. No activity outside to pollute it. Quiet to think, to process, to identify. Who am I without what I do and where I go? Who am I within my four walls, with the people who comprise my world? Time to connect, to listen. A quiet like you've never felt in a city. Scary most times, but in these moments, peaceful. Breathe in, breathe out, release. That's it.
Yeah, thank you. It was beautiful. It was beautiful. We get the emojis there. I would like the people to comment more, but I know that will take time, and then we want to hear Jill with another poem, and then Yael. And I think it's nice that you're reflecting different emotions. We really when when the time comes and we could share them all, it would be nice to have. I'm really looking at it as a kind of a new Tehillim, a new Siddur that we could use regularly. So okay, so thank you, Talia. And Jill, are you ready with another poem? Meanwhile, I'll just read the, if people didn't look at the, what Ariel wrote, the I'll I'll read it. It's okay if Ariel, if I read it, you want to read it? Would you share? He's on mute. Okay. So Ariel wrote this. Wait. Okay, Jill is ready. Okay, so Jill. Oh, I have to unmute you. Sorry.
Yeah, no, I'm ready. Okay.
I'm sorry. I went to see your video and I forgot that I muted. Oh, yeah.
Okay. Okay.
Sorry. And then
All right,
yeah, I'll have you read
This
your
is
report.
just two quick things.
Yes.
So the reason why I picked Psalm 73, I'm sorry, I forgot the other woman's name, who basically talked about this kind of relationship between us and God, like, you know, where our, you know, this kind of reward and punishment, you know, tit for tat kind of relationship.
Mm-hmm.
And that's exactly why I read the poem I wrote about Psalm 73. My favorite line in that, and this is basically, you know, from King David, which is, he decided to choose God despite the math. So there's, if you read Psalm 73, you'll see like somewhere halfway between, he describes the problems brilliantly, like that, the people who, you know, the bottom line, I guess that the biggest issue with me with Corona is, you know, it's bringing about all the disparities, the health disparities, the income disparities, all those things in terms of who's being affected. So, you know, it's not just people at home stuck doing Amazon. There's some like real effects, and the, you know, schisms in our society, the problems in our society are, you know, it's hurting some more than others. And it seems that part, you know, seems very unfair. So the Psalm 73 basically has King David describing all of the problems, you know, during that time beautifully. And then somewhere in the middle of it, he just says, as for me, God is my good. Like all this stuff that I just described so beautifully, I don't know. But for me, I choose God, you know, and so that was helpful, you know, that was helpful to me. So it didn't really answer the why all these unfair things happen, but it still was mentioning that in some respect, at least on the spiritual plane, that we do have some choices, you know. So anyway, so on a lighter note, this is very, very short, but I just love how it came to me. So I went to a jazz concert, and there was a pianist who just said, I just have a little doodad I want to share with you. So I just love that he described music as a doodad, right? You know, just like a little scribble, you know? So so I just wrote a poem based on that because I like the word doodad. So here's the name of the poem. Kick that doodad just like that. Scribble a note, jot down a song, doodle in the margins all day long. Kick that doodad just like that. Do what you do, sketch me a tune, paint a sound that fills the room, blurt it out, skip, sway, swing, play me that thing.
Oh, beautiful. Thank you. And I know there are a lot of musicians here. And you know, we did Simchat Pesach the other week, and people had patience to sit, you know, for an hour and a half and listen to different musicians from around the world performing. It really brings a lot of joy, and thank you, Jill, for that.
Mm-hmm.
Yael, you ready? Yael, I mute you. Okay.
I'm
You
ready.
want to tell us the words of the poem before, or you just sing it?
No, I can explain what the song is about. This is a special song to me. It's called Yo Soy, which means I am. And when I was writing my previous record, sometimes just sit down through the process and go and think like, well, I make albums. People don't listen to albums anymore, but I like making albums. So I sit through and I look at everything that I have and what goes with, like, what's the body of work that I want, the statement that I want to make. And I was looking through my journals and I found this poem that I had written several years ago that I had completely forgotten. I didn't even remember writing it. When I found it, it was like, who wrote this? I didn't remember writing it. And I just thought it was really special, and I grabbed the guitar and started singing it. I didn't even write it. It just sort of came out that way. And it's a song that talks about, initially it started in a way talking about Hashem, about how we all have this idea of what godliness or what the supreme being or what the infinite source is. Everybody experiences it or has an intellectual or a spiritual connection in a different way to it. But in the end, it's a lot more than what any of us can experience. And so it talks a little bit about that, about as if I were speaking, if I were God speaking, I would just say, I am this, I am that, I am here, I am there, I am all these things that you see, and I'm a lot more than that. And at the same time, it changed into talking about something else, which is that everybody sees about ourselves, about each other, pieces of each other. We see a part of a person or something special about that person. Or not, or something we don't like about that person, but everybody sees something different from each other. And it's rare that one person will see everything about ourselves, or that we will see the whole spectrum of another human being. So the song is also about that, about just how we are all a lot more than anybody can see that we are. Can you guys just give me 30 seconds? Oh, I can't hear you, Rabbi. I think you're muted now.
You're good. Yeah, you're good.
Okay, sorry. Just wanted to make sure there was not going to be noise. Well, so that's it. That's the song. Yo soy un montón de equipaje, un frondo sin follaje que quiero ceder. Yo soy un montón de otras cosas que como mariposas tardan en nacer. Yo soy un tremendo vacío, suave rocío en el amanecer. Yo soy un montón de otras cosas, un montón de otras cosas que no puedes ver, que no puedes ver. Yo soy el viajero de un viaje, mensajero con traje de mujer. Y yo soy un montón de otras cosas, un montón de otras cosas que no puedes ver. Y yo soy un pedazo de tiempo, tan solo un momento, una pulsación. Y yo soy un tremendo vacío, la gota en un río que ha de correr, que ha de correr. Thank you.
Hermoso, beautiful. Bravo, bravo. Very good.
Bravo.
Muy bien, muy bien.
Bravo, with wonderful.
You're muted, Rabbi.
We can hear you.
How about you're muted?
I'm sorry. I was saying that was beautiful. Yeah, and I said I invited the Spanish-speaking people. You know, la gente de habla hispana de bueno, si tiene un comentario. I would just say, I mean, I like to have all the lyrics. Is this one of the songs that you published or not yet? Yeah, it is. Yael has her music is online. You could get it on iTunes. Last week after we did the Simchat Pesach, one of our participants went and bought all of her music on iTunes. You should listen to it. I love the phrase with which it started. I don't remember all of it, but two of them stuck with me. Maybe I'll conclude with sort of concluding, because I think this really feels like we can't conclude, or maybe we should have once every other week or every week, or who knows, like a poetry night, and invite more people to. That's really was so powerful. But remember, when we started my introduction, I said that every word in the Tanakh is full of poetry, and the opening verses of the Tanakh in itself are poetries. Bereshit bara Elokim et hashamayim v'et haaretz, v'haaretz הייתה תוהו ובוהו וחושך על פני תהום, the over the abyss. And then in your song, he says, Yo soy un montón de cosas que tú no puedes ver. See, I am a heap, or a mountain, right? Like the earth, of things that you cannot see. And then you said, Yo soy un vacío. I'm an abyss, an emptiness, also that. So it reflected for me, the creation, and the creation of the world is the creation of the human being. Really, really beautiful. I thank everyone for joining. Ariel wanted to read his piece.
I posted the link to the YouTube link to the song.
Oh, okay, beautiful.
I mean, you guys can find it on anywhere, Spotify, Apple Music, wherever you hear music. And I will post the lyrics as well on the chat for whoever wants them.
Okay, bravo. And I think, now what I'm thinking of is, until we do a siddur like that we should work on, people on the chat and people on my email, and Yael and Jill and Talia and Ariel, who sent some poetry, Shai also. People are interested. Let's work on getting like once a week, maybe half an hour of prayer, not from the siddur, with these kind of songs, with this kind of poetry. We just read it with quiet contemplation, reflection on these words, and then singing. I would love to do that. If you're up to this, up to it, we'll do it. So Ariel, you want to share your the piece that you sent everyone? You want to read it?
Thank you. Thank you for letting me share, Rabbi. And
yes,
I've been writing poetry since I was a kid.
So I sent all these messages. You should have told me. We would include you in that.
I
didn't make it exclusive for women this time, but it so happened.
I never put value in my creativity, so that's one of my character flaws. But this I'm gonna sort of sing it. It goes I hear the silence of the masses, the silence of the jets, voices in the closet of those I soon forget. What's the final destination? How long will this last? All I have is inspiration for memories of the past. Yeah, I still think we're all alone. Day by day we slip away, the truth remains untold. Yeah, I still think we're all alone. Day by day we slip away, the truth remains untold. Thank you.
Thank you, Ariel. That was beautiful. So we're davening together for a month now, and I don't know that you do that.
Nice.
Like like Yael says, hay un montón de cosas que no sabemos uno del otro. So yeah, how many things we don't know of each other, and we should really take the time to try and to get to know each other. So thank you everybody for joining tonight. I definitely think that this is something that we should do again. Um, and if other people want to share, let me know your poetry or creativity. This is something that we need to do. Thank you, Talia, for making the time. Thank you, Jill. Thank you, Yael. Thank you, Ariel, for bringing it out. And God willing, we will meet again and we'll do it again. So I'm going to stop the recording because we're going to go to the traditional routine minha, the prayer from the Siddur. But as I said, we really have to work on having our own little tefillah in that manner somewhere in the future. So thank you again, everybody.
I live near Ariel, and I've never heard that. That was